Greetings everyone, my name is Buck Business. Konnichiwa, I'm Kawaii Critic, and today we're here to review My Little Pony Season 8, Episode 6, Surf and or Turf. So, we begin this episode seeing that the CMC are finally being called to the map, which I'm sure fans have been looking forward to ever since the map has been calling others outside the main six to the map, like Spiky-kun, which led to some great adventures, and then Starlight San, which led to some more dumb adventures. So, fortunately, this is sort of a nice in-between. But for an in-between episode, it is easily the best of Season 8 thus far, because Season 8's been a bit of a struggle thus far, let's say, to the very least. So, yes, indeed, the CMC get called to the map, and they get called to the Hippogriff's home. So we are going to learn more about the sea ponies and hippogriffs. Which is, again, something I'm sure the fans have been excited about. So they learn that Silverstream has a brother as they are going to that location. And as they board the train, Apple Bloom retells the story of the Storm King, which is a bit of exposition we of the movie-going folk have the unluxury of hearing again, only after hearing it in the first two episodes again, which does kind of make the end of the episode seem a bit rushed. It does have to get this exposition out of the way, unfortunately. But when they arrive, Scootaloo-chan asks around for help, and then they meet Terriermare-san. I think that was his name. Or something along those lines. At any rate, they meet his father, who, is trying to give Twilight-san a comfortable showing of their home, and probably accidentally stalling her in the process, as she kind of went there to look after the CMC since they are young, and she says she's going there for research, but she seems to get kind of distracted by all the other stuff that's going on. At any rate, we see that Sweetie Belle hears the sound shortly after Twilight leaves. Upon hearing it, she becomes captivated by this highland area home, and is dancing around and feeling just as much home there as she would anywhere else, on the land, that being. So she believes that this is easily the best home before even seeing the sea life. So yes, they do see that the problem is coming from the brother having to choose between the air and the sea, and it does bring up one of the issues in this episode is that the homes are very close together, which kind of brings up the weird question, why did he even have the issue in the first place of picking which one when his homes were like that close to each other? He could just dive in and change back and forth at any point. But it kind of implied that there was something with the parents going on, but later on in the episode, it didn't seem like that was any much. There was no issue there. So his conundrum, if you will, is kind of confusing, to say the very least. At any rate, besides their homes being that close to one another, yes, the ending again is a bit rushed, but we'll get there. So they point out any of the pros and cons of living there, but then they decide that they want to at least see the sea life before truly picking which home to stay in. And we get quite a bit of a moment as well. Scootaloo-chan loves being underwater because to her it feels like flying, and we all know from previous episodes that she has not been able to fly quite yet. So that feeling uh, is really special to her, because that feeling to her feels the same as flying. So it actually makes a lot of sense that she would pick the sea life over the high land in this particular moment in time. But we see that Sweetie Chan isn't really feeling it. She's seeing all the dark and gloomy bits of it. She's looking at all the dark caves and all that stuff. So once they leave, Apple Bloom starts a song about seeing how hard it would be to pick one home or the other. And then Sweetie Belle then sings about how the air life would be, the air home would be much better, while Scootaloo then proceeds to sing about how the sea life would be better, and those two interweaving argue about which life would be better, which home would be better overall. This leads to probably the most interesting part of the episode, which probably could have been expanded if episodes were longer, but unfortunately we don't get that. And that's Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle having that moment where they don't want to talk to each other because they disagree on which home the brothers should go to. And this is probably, again, the most interesting part. One, because this is the first time, to my memory, where a song that was trying to make the situation better actually made the situation worse. To my memory, I don't remember the last time a song did that, so maybe my memory is just a bit too hazy, but I don't remember the last time that's actually ever happened in the show. So it is interesting in that aspect. It is also interesting in the aspect to finally see some of the CMC actually having a bit of a turmoil between them. They are young, they have different feelings, and they have always been kind of consistently together. So it's finally interesting to see some sort of divide somewhere in between them. So I do feel like that was the episode's biggest strength, easily. But again, it is kind of cut short, unfortunately. Anyways, after the song, the brother feels even more hopeless than before. And we can't stress enough that the ending was indeed rushed. So, anyways, Apple Bloom Chan, acting as the moderator between the two, is trying to, talk between them, and they're like right next to each other. But they both, all three of them, see that when Twilight-san makes her return, that indeed both the sea ponies and the hippogriffs are talking to each other. This gives them the idea to go to him and have the hippogriffs and sea ponies, continue to interact with like that. They go to retrieve the brother and bring him back to see the balance between the two homes, and with them again right next to each other, it just makes it that much easier to see that this whole problem kind of came out of thin air. That he kind of brought this on himself by kind of giving himself some sort of unknown pressure to pick a home when his homes, again, were that close to each other and he could just go back and forth really easily. And thus, the CMC glow, and the brother celebrates by switching back and forth, and that is the end of that episode. Woo! As an episode, it did feel a bit rushed. Again, some of that exposition in the beginning kind of hurts the episode from that. But unfortunately, since the show has to assume that everyone hasn't seen the movie, it has to re-explain what happened, even though, again, it already did that kind of in the first two episodes. Other than that, again, the homes being that close to each other was the only other real issue because it kind of downplays his sort of turmoil between choosing the two homes. As two ponies, that being us, who come from a place that is much farther from here, our origin anyway, it would have been more interesting to see if he had to choose if, going back and forth would be too much of a struggle, if he had to choose a location definitively. Again, I know that the show would probably never do that because that would be saddening and it wouldn't be the perfect ending and all of that. But again, it would probably help those individuals who, have homes that are much further apart. Um, I can think of people who move constantly from home to home to home, and that's another completely other situation altogether. And the struggles that that brings, and always having to make new friends, and that type of situation. Again, having two homes that's further apart is always kind of just stressful constantly because you're always thinking of that second home, wishing that one day you could return. And it would have been interesting to see that happen, that play out, but again, it's impossible because, again, the homes are right next to each other, so there's really no point in the dilemma. Furthermore, the whole aspect of him choosing also again kind of comes out of nowhere with the parents. I mentioned this earlier. Um, it seemed as if there was supposed to be more of a rift between the two of them. Like they didn't like each other anymore, or they were making him choose more regular. You know, they were like saying, "Oh, you have to pick this home" or something along those lines. But the episode never addresses that, so it never comes up. So it's completely absent from the episode. So we don't know why exactly this dilemma comes up in the first place. But other than that, it is really interesting to get at least an episode where we see the CMC struggle a bit more than what they are used to, seeing them argue a bit more. And again, I think that could have been a bit more fleshed out, taking more of that spot of, instead of, retelling a story that we've heard twice over, getting more of that rift and getting that rift fixed in a more paced episode. Other than that, again, that is the most interesting aspect to us. And that is our review of this episode. Stekta Ting Tung Tori! And if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, farewell.